Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the 3 o'clock session of the LMEA virtual conference. It's my pleasure today to introduce to you John Mlynczak. He has an extensive range of experience in music education and technology. And without any further ado, please help me virtually welcome John.
Friends, it's so good to be back in Louisiana. I haven't got to do it without leaving my home in Boston. Really happy to be here. Appreciate all y'all sticking up. See some friends already in here. Scotty, always a pleasure. You've been doing amazing things down there. See you popping up everywhere and all the great things you're doing for LMEA. Mr. Hicks, I believe I saw you at the last Midwest on the way out the door, and who would have thought I wouldn't have been able to seen you since then, but that's okay. We are here, we're virtual, and we're ready to begin. So let me go ahead. I'm going to do something very original here, and I'm going to talk over one of these fancy things called a PowerPoint. So, oh, Sheely. Is that Sheely Bells? Oh my goodness. I don't even know what's going on anymore, y'all. This is just too much. Well, I hit the screen share button while I was talking. I promised I did, and now it's spinning, so I'm just going to press it again. Because you know what happens with technology? It's just not doing it. So I'm going to try to share my screen instead. And Webinar Jam is just spinning away. Spinning. So let me get started. You know what? I really don't know what's going on with this. So if the good folks at ConSummer are on right now, I'm just going to refresh the whole. All right, I'm back. This is going well so far. Now I'm going to share an application window one more time. Hey, look at that. It worked. We all good? Let me get back to the chat because I like to see what my friends have to say. Okay, there we are. I lost the chat, so y'all have to say hi to me again. Hey, y'all have seen my shtick a few times. I think a lot of you on here have. And this is a different version of it. This is John Mlynczak COVID edition. But look, you know I've been talking about music tech for a long time. I was talking about music tech before March of 2020. I was talking about music tech, in probably March of 2015. So with that said, I've been thinking a lot this year about this concept we keep hearing about the new normal. And what's the new normal going to be and what's it like? And, I have a lot of thoughts on this, and I'm going to share them for the next 54 minutes and not a minute longer because at that point it will be 5 o'clock on the East Coast, and you know what that means. But when I think about the new normal and reform, I think a lot about how we as educators are going to come out of this. What's the new normal going to look like? And is there any normal? What is consistent at all? What is consistent with technology? What is consistent with teaching? But I do think that where we're going to come out is a better place. And this is hard. This is challenging. A lot of opportunities, a lot of things we're used to doing we can't do. But there's a lot of things we can do. And I'm going to talk a lot about ways I think that we can engage students with music making. Because at the end of the day, and I'll start and end with this, we still wake up every morning and our job is to inspire and change kids' lives through music. That's it. At the highest level, that's what we do. And that's what we've always done. And yes, that used to happen on the marching band field. And yes, that used to happen in the concert band hall. And it will again. But it doesn't mean we have to stop. It doesn't mean we have to limp along. It doesn't mean we have to, miss opportunities. There's new opportunities. And that's what I want to focus on today. And I'm going to talk about a lot of stuff, and you can agree with me, you can disagree with me, but I hope you're all comfortable. Sit back, grab a nice beverage, an ice cold water perhaps, and let's start talking about music ed, right? So let me start clicking through. I'm going to skip all of this because y'all know where I come from and what I've done and a lot of my background. So I'm going to jump right into this thing about students. Look, students have consumed music. Students have consumed everything. Families have consumed everything. We live in a world where technology is what we've consumed, right? And I just want to point out, as we really think about it, if you're a child in middle school or high school right now and you're really thinking about trying to figure out the world and life and you're looking around at adults and you're looking around at your peers, everyone's like this, right? This is our world, right? This is kind of how we we live in the world. And we can, debate that separately. But the fact of the matter is, having technology as the sole communication device is not a new concept for kids. It's a new concept for us, right? And one of the challenges we have as educators is we have to learn to meet kids where they're at. And I think that's something that we want to think about, right? Because when we think about how we consume music, I'm going to kind of go through this part quickly. We consumed music a certain way. We had records, we had cassette tapes, we made mixtapes, we had CD players. We had CD players in the passenger seat of our car plugged into the cassette tape deck of our car, right? With a little plastic cassette tape shaped thingy that was the converter. And then we had CDs on the visor. We had CDs in the back. At some point, we put 66 CDs in the trunk. We did that for a hot minute, right? Then we, then we had Napster. Y'all remember Napster? That was my favorite. Mom, hang up the phone. Mom, hang up the phone. I got to get online and download one song and 27 viruses. It'll take 16 hours, so I got to get it going before bed. And we had iPods, but kids don't know any of this. They've never had to go on and try to download songs on, from Napster. They can just have anything that they want at their fingertips from this thing called Spotify. This thing right here. See it over there, the Spotify. And so as a kid, you can just access anything you want online. It's a very new concept for them, right? It's very interesting. So now let's think about how we learned, right? And what learning looked like to us as students, because a lot of us, remember, we learn and we consume music. We think about music education and we think about learning through our own lens, right? We have our own lenses of music ed based on a lot of the ways we consume music. We have our own biases and lenses of music we like and music we listen to. I'm going to talk about it, even play some music here in a minute because it is a music conference. But we also have our lenses for how we teach based on how we learned. And I'm talking about education as a whole because, a lot of the issues and things that we struggle with in music education is not just music, it's education, right? Education was always been modeled after the technology that was available. In the same way that the various technologies of music making and consumption changed the way we make and consume music, the technologies of learning changed the way we consume, the way we learn. So we learned, teacher has chalkboard, teacher writes on chalkboard, we have notebook, we write it down, right? And I get that. And then technology like the overhead projector, which I don't know how it was invented, probably someone at the Golden Corral looking at the heat lamp on the roast beef thinking, I wonder if I put that under some glass and put a mirror on it and project it, I can probably change education, right? And that's what happened. So suddenly, right, education is different because, this idea of the teacher doesn't have to have their back to the students. They can look at the students. They can write on the overhead and they can show students. They can not have to erase everything. They can pull out another transparency and keep writing, right? And allow them to move faster. Allow them to print the quiz on a piece of transparency paper, so that way they could actually show it to the students, right? So, I had a mini disc too, Greg. I had the whole thing, and that little microphone, that Sony microphone that took one AA battery that lasts for about 6 minutes, and you had to put a fresh one in. I use a lot of mini disc recorders. So we learned a certain way, but our learning was based on the technology we had. And so, you think about now how technology's gone through. We had the LMEA projector scanners. Now we have projectors in classrooms. Then we had the smart boards, the interactive whiteboard, the Promethean board, all that stuff. But now, it's all different because now we have Chromebooks and we have iPads and we have whatever device the school has purchased from the lowest of three bidders, right? That's what we use to teach. And we're connected through some software, whether it's Google Classroom or Schoology, Canvas, Moodle, Blackboard, PowerSchool, all of these things. So our students have a perspective of learning that's different than ours. And what we have to do and what we ultimately do as educators and how we've all figured out and to lead students is we meet them where they're at and we take them forward. We meet them. So if we know as teachers, if we want to really teach someone and we really want to inspire them and we really want to make them better at their instrument, at their roll step, at the recorder, whatever it is, you meet them where they're at and you push them one step at a time. When I worked in the State Department of Louisiana on Common Core and assessment and standards. I had a real fun argument with someone that kept saying we got to raise the bar higher. Louisiana has the highest, Louisiana for a long time had the highest standards for education, and we're 49th in student performance. And, me and my friend Richard Baker, who supervised arts time, we used to scream and yell and say, look, you can raise that damn bar. Sorry. You can raise that bar as high as you want to raise it. It's not going to make anyone learn faster. It's not going to help those kids down in New Orleans that need so much more than higher standards at the State Department, So what I mention all this because at the end of the day, at the absolute end of the day, and in a worldwide pandemic when we're all scared and emotionally, financially, physically, mentally, just drained of everything, right? That's where we all are. We got to admit that. At the end of the day, we step all the way back and say, what the heck is all this for? It's changing lives of students with music. Some teachers change the life of students with math, right? Problem solving. Some people change the life of students with English, learning to communicate, read, literature. Some people change the life of students with physical health. We change the life of students with music. And that doesn't stop because we can't run around a marching band field and we can't sweat outside in 110 degree heat on the parking lot. So we have to think about how we reach these kids where they're at. And the tables have turned a little bit because the thing is that they're pretty comfortable with tech and we're the ones struggling, right? They're laughing at us. Y'all know kids are laughing at us trying to figure out where do I click the Zoom and is the microphone on and, that type of stuff. So let's think about it, right? But, we as adults, we have this thing called experience. And experience is a wonderful thing. And I'm proud to feel old enough finally that I wake up in the morning and parts of my body start cracking that I didn't know could crack or pop. So I think I'm old enough to start saying I have some experience. But experience is a wonderful thing, but experience is also the thing that can limit us because we see through our experiences. Our experiences are valuable, but they're also a lens. And if we only look through the lens of our experiences, if we only try to grow, adapt, evolve, inspire, mentor, change, create, perform only through this lens of our experiences, then it becomes limiting. So we want to use our experiences, but we also want to broaden our experiences. And so when you think about traditional education, it's whole class instruction. It's a teacher and a bunch of kids in a classroom. Why did it have to be that way? Why wasn't the first school that was founded in, let's say, in this country, why wasn't it founded upon individualized learning and personalized learning? Why was it whole class instruction? Well, a lot of it had to do with the only technology available to get knowledge was a book. Right? Remember there was a time that people actually walked door to door and sold encyclopedias because that's how you had to have knowledge. I grew up poor, right? Like Nixon was the last president I knew of, according to my encyclopedia set, because it was a hand-me-down from my uncle. So I didn't really know much of what happened in past the 70s. However, now knowledge is available everywhere. I always ask myself, if we were to invent education, if we were to settle, it's Thanksgiving's coming up, right? The great story, the story of the settlement of this fine country. So let's pretend we all settle here. We're going to figure out how to educate students. Would we do it the same? Would we put teacher in front and have all the kids sit still, be still, not move, and face the front all day and only do what the teacher says or would we look at all the available technology around us? Would we do it differently? Right? Look, it's 2020, y'all. We challenge everything. We can challenge everything. Okay. So online learning happens. I'm going to switch my face to the other side just because I think it's going to help. Look at that now. See, there I am. Now I'm looking this way. Now I'm here. So online learning is the fun part about WebJam. When online learning happened, we all went, oh my gosh, March 2020, we all went online. We didn't know what to do. So what we did is we did this. But this screen is nothing more than whole class, lecture-based, traditional instruction. It's this in front of a computer. And it's fine. We went to our comfort zone. We do what we know. We didn't really have a lot of time to plan, prep, or realize. So I get it, right? But I want to challenge the thought of online versus in class because that's where we're thinking and that's where we're hyper-focused right now. And I'm, talking to school districts all over the country and you're thinking about, I've seen all the models. But I'm telling you, online and in class are locations of people. They're delivery mechanisms. And that's great, but that's not what we're really talking about here. When we really think about having to educate kids through a computer versus in class, and even we have to think about instructional models, right? That's what it's about. We've got to stop focusing about online or in class, and we've got to start thinking about instruction models that work. Now, so by the way, online learning did not start in March of 2020. It's been around for quite a while. So we have this idea of the flipped classroom. I'm going to talk about two models that we've probably all heard of before. Flipped classroom, right? So before class, instead of all the kids having to come to class to get lectured, to get the knowledge, to be able to do an assignment at home, kids can do some assignment. Generally, we can video lectures. That was a big part of it, right? But students can get knowledge and come into class ready to work, right? This kind of, by the way, I love these educational models because I'm always the one saying, actually, that's what music does, right? You practice at home, you rehearse in class. You show up to class ready to work. We were flipping the classroom before flipping the classroom's cool. Learn your part, show up, rehearse, and we'll go perform. So, but this model is one that, and it works now, right? We don't want to waste the precious commodity of FaceTime with our babies that is so rare these days to get on a Zoom to lecture at kids. They can watch those lectures on their own. When they come in the Zoom, we want to celebrate. We want to hear how they're doing. We want to see what they're playing. We want them to share with each other. So flipping the classroom is great. Now, hybrid model. We've talked about hybrid learning for a while, and I think hybrid learning is the future, right? So it's a combination of online and classroom. There are certain things that work online. There are certain things that work in class. Playing instruments together works real good in class all together, right? It doesn't work on Zoom. And I swear on everything. If one more person asks on Facebook, because there's a software where all the kids can play at the same time and it's no latency, I'm going to lose it. It ain't there. It ain't going to be, okay? I'm telling you, it's not there. Stop trying to make fetch happen, okay? And on Wednesdays, we wear pink. But there are things that fit online, right? Because individualized instruction, having kids practice their instrument, record themselves, get feedback from other students, take that feedback to make them better and set their own learning goals. Put 60 kids in one room and try to have them all do that at the same time. That's chaos, but it works real well online when they can have access to tools and materials like Google Classroom. They can put recordings in Google Drive, and they can have other students be assessed. Thank you, Eric. Someone had to get the reference. There's a lot of them. Y'all pay attention. There'll be a test at the end. Very important. But, they can use these tools to be able to engage and have more personalized learning online. So look, we've been doing whole class instruction in music ed for about 100 years now. It's been going pretty well, but we can try something different for another 6 months or a year. We can take this year and really think about some more tools. So also, this hybrid model is going to be great, but we still have this other thing called COVID. And as my dear friend and mentor says, and Bob Morrison, who I think is also presented at this conference, Bob has always been wonderful, and this time he's one of the people that rose up better than anybody. But he says that the virus is boss, and he's right. We keep trying to make certain things happen, but our administration's not calling the shots. Our district's not calling the shots. The state's not calling the shots. The federal government's not calling the shots. President Trump's tweets aren't calling the shots. The virus is calling the shots. And we're just going to have to accept it until it's safe. And so we have all of these challenges. But one thing that can remain true is that we keep thinking temporary. And that's the problem I see. And I'm a huge country music fan. And, as you know, temporary home, Carrie Underwood. Someone stay with me, folks. But we've been thinking temporary too long. In March, we'll be back in April. Just for the rest of the year. It'll be back to normal in August. We'll start band camp a little later. You know what? We'll hold school. We'll come back after Labor Day. Of course. Well, Bob should absolutely be the keynote speaker tomorrow. He's absolutely wonderful. But here's the thing. We have opportunities for learning right now that are so valuable and so amazing. And in fact, we would not be able to invest ourselves and our students and our time in learning to use technology to reach students at a deeper level had we not all been forced to break from the norm, right? We've been forced to break from the norm. I'm not sure where a festival is or if we're going to have state assessments or, but this rinse and repeat, like get the kids going, play the fall concert, get the festival music passed out, make sure you ground, go to festival in March, start the marching band at the end, go back marching band in the summer. We've been doing that a long time. Wonderful, wonderful. But we have an opportunity now to do something new, and we should use it. We cannot waste this time that we've given, the gift of time and experimentation and trying something new by thinking that online is temporary, and I cannot see another Facebook post about people saying I'm running out of ideas to do online. We've already written concert programs, and we've already done rhythm games, and we've already done composer biographies. I don't know what else to do. Oh my gosh, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Like, that is not actively engaging. We are not plugging the hole with a horse rag until we get back to land. We have an opportunity. So think beyond temporary. Because if you are not doing it, if anyone feels frustrated right now, if anyone feels stressed, if you feel like it's not working, I'm telling you, this is why. This is why right here, because we are trying to take a square peg and jam it in a round hole. And frustration lives at the corner of expectations and reality. That's true, right? So anyone that's frustrated, the thing about frustration as an emotion, as a feeling, it is controllable. I mean, arguably all emotions are controllable, but we don't have to be frustrated. We choose to be frustrated. We choose to allow ourselves to be frustrated, because the thing is, when reality and expectations align, no one's frustrated. When either of those two are out of alignment, we're frustrated. So if we expect to do the same thing we've always done, except through a Zoom, well, the reality is not going to match up. Ta-da, frustration, right? So what we should do is look at the reality. Look at who's boss. But look at what technology we have. Look at what opportunities we have. Look at what kids have. And kids are resilient. They're creative. They're powerful. They're passionate. So let's look at the reality and get rid of all the expectations. And let's make new expectations of what we can do in the reality in which we live. Then we'll be aligned, right? By the way, I think someone's mic is on. I'm hearing some general breathing and touching noise, but we can go on. So here's the thing I've been talking a lot about. Individualized instruction, right? So this is a Mlynczak made up formula. So take it with a grain of salt, y'all. But what I mean by this is individualized instruction to me has to do with, something just popped up. So I don't know what's going on here. I assume you can still hear me, but yeah, it looks like we're good. Individualized instruction is about reaching kids on their own. But you think about like how we create balance, how we have expectations and reality aligned. To me, this is it. When we had in-class safe with instruments and voices, and we had performance opportunities, whole class made sense. The equation's balanced, right? But when we are online and we have our instruments but only at home, or maybe far distance apart, and then we don't have performance opportunities, we can try to engage students by learning opportunities. Individualized makes sense, And so it's all about balancing equations. Life is about balance, right? And when things get out of balance, we get out of whack and we all get sort of frustrated. But it doesn't have to be. So how do we find that balance? What is individualized instruction, mind you? John, do you have a slide on what this is? Well, as a matter of fact, I do. So individualized instruction, there's a bunch of different models out there. You can sort of look it up. Sonia, you're not everyone. I think one of the moderators is on. So all good. I can't see or hear anyone else. But this idea of individualized instruction has to do with kids setting their own goals, creating their own learning goals, making them dynamic, reviewing. You can read this here. Own the progress. Involve parents. I would go beyond parents. I would involve stakeholders and community members. But you think about it, this is practice, right? We always have this element of music education. We want students to practice. Of course we do, right? That's individualized. Set goals, this kind of a traditional way of, coaching an ensemble is it's probably not static. It's probably my heater that just turned on behind me that's whistling because I got one of those old heaters. So in Boston, we have these things called heaters. I've never seen them before until I moved from Louisiana. So we're good on audio. Testing 1, 2. Someone give me the okay. One said static. One said you're losing me. I'm gonna keep going. There's no battery. I am all good here. So if you can't hear me, at me, but otherwise I'm gonna keep going. The interesting thing is kids have been practicing individualized for a long time. And we can take this and think about how we can extend this. So, all right, hold on. Let's figure out this sound thing. Let me try something else. Something must have changed because I didn't change anything. All right, how about that? Is that good? I didn't change. I'll put my microphone closer, but I am looking at like super high mic volume here. I'm metering all the way. So I'm going to keep going, but I'll put this in my face. So it's super, super loud, right? Individualized instruction, we can do so much more in education. So I want to think about what that is. First of all, if we can think about, oh my goodness, I don't know what this started from this. I've seen it just started briefly. All right, hang on a second, y'all. This is fun. I'm going to stop my screen. I haven't changed anything. One person's telling me they're static. One person says it's better. So,
Hi, John. Can you try to refresh your browser and see if that helps?
Yep. Is that any better?
Not.
I'm going to go back out and change my audio source. Hang on.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, folks. Stick with us.
All right, Mlynczak back. Hello. This event is brought to you by John Mlynczak, reappearing and disappearing.
Much better.
I don't know what changed. I swear I was just talking. You saw it. Sorry about that, y'all. I don't know what changed, but I will just keep on going like I am. So I'm going to turn my screen share back on, go back to my window, and pick up like I didn't even miss a beat. All right. I don't know what happened. I didn't touch it. The beautiful thing about technology is 1 minute it works and 1 minute it doesn't. And you know what? That's okay. You smile, you log in back, and you keep going because that's how it works. So this idea of individualized instruction, not dependent on delivery. And the thing about individualized instruction is learning happens through it's Boston, exactly. Learning happens through self-reflection, right? When we empower students to be in charge of their own learning, they're accountable for it, but they're accountable for articulating and thinking about what they're learning, and that's key. Students get self-motivated by goals. They are actively creating and doing right away. That's a huge thing for me. Students want to make music. They want to play music. They do not want to log on and do music games and just filler material until we can get back playing. We have ways to actively engage students using Noteflight, which you can come to the session at 2 p.m. CT tomorrow to learn about. But students are collaborating through peer review and feedback. This is another really important piece, right? Students that can connect to each other, because individualized and personalized and online does not mean isolated. And that's also really important, right? Because we too often find students that are isolated, right? And we need to make sure that technology, it allows us to connect and communicate. We communicate with our phones. We communicate through Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, TikTok, whatever it is. We communicate with each other with technology. Technology brings us together. It's literally called a web, an interweb of people communicating, right? That's what it does. And so we have to think beyond that. But also, we want students to be assessed on learning and not just products. Individualized instruction is about owning the path of learning and not turning stuff in for the teacher. And we'll talk about that soon as well. Now, of course, this all sounds great, right? What does this mean? Well, let me give you some examples of what I think this means. And, no offense to any traditional music education, but I'm just going to ask some questions here, right? I think it's all about asking the right questions. That's what my memoir is going to be called. It's going to be called Ask the Right Questions. So after years of music class, and when I say years, let's assume a student has had some elementary music and has gone into a secondary music class, choir, band, or orchestra, and they've been there for 2, maybe 3 years or more. So, but after being in music class, when students leave music, whether because they graduate or they decide they need to take another class or they just don't like the oboe, I mean, who does anyway, right? But for whatever reason they leave, first of all, can students arrange and find music for their voice and instrument? When Taylor Swift drops a new album and Susie Clarinet Player wants to play that with that Taylor Swift song on Spotify, do they know what notes to play? When they go and find the music online and they see the sheet music and they look at it, do they know how to take it up a step and add 2 hashtags to make it work, right? But otherwise, I mean, can they just find music they love and do it, right? Can students record and video themselves? Do they know how to set videos and levels and just basic set up a microphone? Because it's self-assessment, but it's also just sharing music, right? Can students listen to music with just a deeper understanding and experience? Do they know what the musical elements are and why they're important? Not because my teacher said crescendo, circle it, put the eyeglasses, circle it twice, draw an arrow, draw 2 arrows, look up, crescendo, right? Is that why they do it? Or do they do it because do they understand how that adds value and excitement to music, right? Can students collaborate on music making online, right? And finally, and last but not least, can students enjoy playing or creating music by themselves without being assigned to do so? I have my instruments here, and I've been doing something every morning. Y'all, I don't have time to play anything anymore. I just sat and look over the computer all day. But I'll tell you that I've been starting my days, and sometimes in the middle of the day when I just need a break, and I will just grab my horn, and I approach it with no concept whatsoever. I'm just noodling. I don't know what I'm playing. I'm not actually trying to play a song. Sometimes this kind of year I try to pick out Christmas carols, but I just play because it feels good. What's wrong with that? No one assigned me anything. No one gave me anything. No one's going to grade me. No one's going to judge my tone. No one's going to judge the fact that my chops are literally tingling from only like 3 seconds because that's how out of shape I am. There's no jury sitting around. I'm just going to play. Do kids do that? Will a kid leave music and keep their instrument around and just know they can play it just to make their heart happy? So you ask the question like, wow, this sounds awesome. Has this been a part of our curriculums all along? Why or why not? We don't have to debate that. Look, y'all, it's 2020. It's almost 2021. I'm not looking back. I'm looking forward, right? I'm tired of looking backwards. I'm writing everything in Sharpie. I threw away all my erasers. We are going forward. That's all we got. That's all we can do. But so what if we spent this year focused on these type of skills, right? What if we just allowed students to find and play music and just made them little music making passionate machines, and we readjust some of the traditional things we think, transposition is one of those things that people just find so confusing, right? And it's hard with students, right? I mean, everyone that teaches beginning band knows, okay, you play a G and you play a C and you play a B flat. Don't worry, it's all the same note. But why is mine a different note? How's it going to sound? It's going to sound the same. But why is it called something different? Don't ask, just play the note, like we've all been there. It's hard. But you know what? It's not that hard. Have you cracked a 5th grade math book recently? Have you seen what that stuff is like? If a kid can pass math in 5th grade, they can figure out how an alto saxophone transposes in 6th grade. We just have to teach it. But if we can break down some of those barriers with the goal of like, you can play anything, find a song, teach them to pick things out by ear, start doing those things now. Those are the type of individual skills that we have been given a gift of time and resources to do, because kids can do that online. They can do that with just using voice memo and drop my book on the phone or whatever, so there's opportunity here, right? So I want to think a little bit now about music technology in general, because we talk about how tech's going to change the way we do things. And generally I have less stuff. I'm going to check my time. Cool. But music technology, we think too much about the stuff, the things. Yes, there are things, and there are lots of different pieces and devices. But y'all, the devices are going to change. There's all sorts of new stuff going on, and quite frankly, it always changes. And even in the middle of a presentation, it changes without touching anything, and so it's all good, right? But it's not about music technology. It's really about music creation. That's what it is to me. Technology allows us to create music, whether it's arranging, composing, just finding a song you want to play and orchestrating it for your instrument, whether it's making something on Soundtrap, whether it's using Noteflight, whether it's pulling out your phone and recording or taking a video of you playing, 8 measures of Go Tell Aunt Rhody or whatever's in the beginning instruction book. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Technology allows students to create something, and they have a tangible artifact that they can say, look, mama, I made this. This is my clarinet a video of my clarinet playing. Look at this. It allows us to share, collaborate, but it allows students to own it. Students can own it, right? It's not something that happened in a class in a certain time for in a certain period on a certain day based on a certain schedule. It's something they can own and value. And it allows us to have student-led instruction. And using technology to engage students means that we're going project-based. We're engaging students. We're giving them goals, and we're letting them get there. But project-based has to be process-focused, right? Because quite frankly, I'm not as really interested in what kids turn in. I'm interested in what they learn along the journey. And that journey, to me, is about collaborating, feedback, and growth. How many times do we have students share what they're working on with their peers and get feedback? Is it at the end of the project? Is it everyone reports out the final thing? Why do we wait till the very end, right? It puts this sort of stigmatism that it has to be good enough before you can share it with people. How many people never let students play for the class until it's playing test day and you have to practice? Think about some of these sort of subliminal messages that we send sometimes. If the only time students share with each other is when it's like the final thing, then the message is, well, you really can't share ideas until it's good enough. Until it's ready. We're not opening space. We're not creating an environment where going to someone and saying, hey, I made up this idea. I have this idea. What do you think? Could we use it? Is it ba-da-da-da-da-dee-da-da, or is it ba-da-da-da-da-dee-da-da? Or, how does it, or is it ba-da-da-da? How does it fit in? What do you think? That conversation, that's music making. That's fun. That's engaging. That's inspiring, right? But we have to create space. I think when we have kids using this technology, they should be collaborating. Every project should be in groups. I have all my students share things in discussion forums and just cultivate an environment where they're giving each other ideas. Because at the end of the day, a student can turn in, will do whatever I tell them to do. Well, most of them, percussion won't do anything, but most students will do whatever I tell them to do. But we don't want them to do things because we tell them to do it. We want them to be able to have conversations around music making with each other, because the real key to success of any leader is that if you're not in the picture, learning still happens, right? It still goes on. And at some point, those students are going to leave your program and they're not going to be there anymore. But learning goes on, but only if we've cultivated and inspired and trained them that music making happens between them and not because we say so. And that's when it becomes really powerful. Now, let's talk about something else that I think is really, really exciting, right? 5 minutes. I thought I had an hour. Whoa, this is only a 45-minuter? I am 15 minutes to go. I'm going to talk with the Micro Machine guy. Wowzer. Okay, y'all. I thought I had a full hour here. So, music creation. Here's one thing I'm going to challenge. And I can probably just end with this if I had to. Music is about more than music theory. Look, I know when we try to go online, we're trying to think of activities kids can do at home. And I see all over Facebook, I see all over PDs, I see teachers all over the country. We're going back to our comfort zone, which is what we learned in college, right? Music theory is a dangerous two words, because music theory, right, when we learned it, was essentially the analysis of European music from a particular time period. And that music was only consumed by people of a certain class and a certain color in that time period, right? So let me be real. We learned to analyze the music of old dead white guys, right? So when I learned parallel fourths and fifths were bad in music theory, I was confused because I'm on my electric guitar playing bom, 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 ba-da, bom. And I'm saying, wait a minute, that's parallel fourths. Bar chords are parallel fourths. So that sounds cool. What do you mean it's wrong? I don't know what this means. So let's be clear that music theory, in the sense that we've thought about it, is not music theory to kids. Because a kid that's listening to hip hop is probably not inspired by how a voice is supposed to lead according to what Bach did in 1702, right? And that's okay. Bach is beautiful. I listen to Bach all the time. I love Bach. I love Biggie. I love it all. Music is a beautiful thing, but we have to teach music with music that people care about. We have to reach kids where they are and inspire them to go one step further. And now that we don't have to pick rep from a list, a predetermined list to go play on stage at a certain date, we have an opportunity to teach kids music with any music. And we have an obligation to reach kids with music that matters to them and expand horizons. So we have to be careful. There's all certain types of music that we listen to, and there's certain types of music that we don't listen to. As teachers, if we only demonstrate examples of music that we like, how is that reaching kids, right? So we have to give them the opportunity through personalized learning and individualized learning experiences to be able to demonstrate and present and talk and have discussions with each other about form, texture, harmony, melody, theory, right? Or just how music fits. Why does this chord sound different? That's music theory, not spell a French augmented sixth chord, right? Why does this chord make you feel, something else is coming? You can talk about music like that. Kids get that, right? They don't have to know that it's the 5 of the 6th chord and it's setting up to the minor tonality and like that major tonality that comes out, because it kind of sounds like this, like almost like major 3 chord, and it's like, wait, where is that from? Oh my gosh! But blah, 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 blah. But we can teach kids how those chords have impact. But we have to just really approach it like that, So I really think that this is the opportunity that we have now. So I'll give you some quick tips. I'm going to blaze through this because I didn't realize this was a shorter presentation. So music composition, creation, they can be short lessons. Use what you have. Nobody says you have to start, or music composition has to write something original. Use things that are valuable and dissect them. Teach music, focus on musical skills, teach harmony, teach melody. Every song has harmony, melody, flow, emotion, texture. Just teach music, right? Create, perform, respond, connect in every lesson. Kids need to respond to each other and connect and have rich conversations about music. And we have to inspire confidence, right? And so to do this, I think about, advocacy, and I'll end here, is that how this all has a really important advocacy moment, because when we use technology to have students creating music and being able to share it, they need to share it out, because obviously this image is the end of Hamilton. But how did Hamilton end? Who lives, who dies, who tells your story? Who tells why music education is valuable? How do people know music education is changing lives? We know we're changing lives, but we need to tell that story. Our kids are creating music and creating lessons right now that they have the ability to share because it's in a digital format. Every lesson should include sharing with your family, sharing with your sharing with other mentors, sharing with other community stakeholders, right? So if kids are creating music, they should share it, because at the end of the day, music is not created for a teacher to grade. It's created to make the world a better place. And as we have kids use technology and play the music that they love in their way and be able to articulate musically about it, they should be sharing that with the communities, because that's what spreads the goal. The goal is we want more kids in music, more kids staying in music. And if kids are talking about music, that's what's really, really, really really powerful. So we talk a lot about advocacy. We all go to the State House. We all go to the government. We have these conversations, but lobbying for funds and policy and advocacy are different things. Advocacy is not about music makes you smarter or defending music education. I don't need to defend music education. I know in my heart why it's there. So don't be on the defense, be on the offense, right? Advocacy is not about waiting for someone to cut budgets and then grabbing the pitchforks and storming the castle. Advocacy is about making sure that while our kids are creating music, that they're sharing it with others, that we are engaging students, that they love music so much that they want to talk about it and they want to share it. Technology allows us to learn and share and collaborate in ways never before possible. And we can use that to share why music's valuable in ways never before possible. So you can, in fact, advocate like right now, right? You can advocate this weekend. So I encourage you all to think about this. If you want to see more and learn about Noteflight and all the wonderful things Noteflight can do, I'll be more than happy to join you tomorrow at 2:00, and I'll be demonstrating all of these in like real Noteflight lessons and lots of ways you can reach students. So thank you for the time. Thank you for hanging in there. And thank you for keeping your heads up and staying positive and continuing to change the lives of students through music. Have a wonderful evening.